stories, the history unfolds. Istanbul.com, deep dive at the
Welcome, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be exploring the Maiden's Tower, one of the most iconic landmarks in the amazing city of Istanbul. And of course, you want to give a huge thanks to Istanbul.com for making this deep dive possible. You know, they're like your one-stop shop when you're planning a trip to Istanbul, so be sure to check them out. All right, let's dive right into this fascinating, almost mythical structure. So picture this, right? A lone tower standing tall, rising out of the waters of the Bosphorus Strait. It's surrounded by these amazing legends. We've got Byzantine emperors, we've got princesses facing tragic destinies, and even venomous snakes. And this isn't just some small, insignificant building, right? This structure has seen it all. Empires have risen and fallen, and all around it, history has just unfolded. And it's left behind an incredible legacy of stories and architecture that we're going to uncover together. So are you ready to really discover the secrets of the Maiden's Tower?
We're going to be going back in time. We're going to be exploring its origins, the myths, how it's changed, how it's evolved from like an ancient outpost to the modern day icon that we know it as today.
Well, you know, to truly get the Maiden's Tower, you have to start with where it is. Imagine a small islet right at the entrance to the Bosphorus Strait. It's this incredible point where the Black Sea meets the Sea of Marmara.
Oh, wow. So it's almost like a bridge, like a symbolic bridge between these two continents.
Exactly, right at the crossroads. And that's why it's been so crucial throughout history. I mean, think about it. It's been there for centuries, seeing everything come and go.
So I have to ask about the name Maiden's Tower. It sounds romantic, a bit mysterious. What's the story there?
Well, the most popular story, the one everyone knows, is about a Byzantine emperor. He was obsessed with protecting his daughter because there was this prophecy said she would die from a snake bite.
Oh, no.
And he thought the tower, that's the safest place, isolated, away from any snakes. So he kept her there, thinking he was outsmarting fate.
Wow. Talk about a protective parent. But I did read that it's gone by other names, too. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's been called Arkla, which means small castle, and Damalis, too, meaning calf. And even some European historians, they called it Leander's Tower, based on their own mythology.
It's amazing how a name can change, reflect all these different cultures and how they see the tower. Okay, but enough about names for now. I'm really curious about its history. It seems like it's been there forever. Did it just, always exist?
No. It has a beginning, I promise. The earliest we know of anything there goes back to 408 BC. That's when the Athenian general, Alcibiades, he set up a customs station on that little islet.
Customs station. So not so romantic back then, huh?
No, it was all business. They needed to manage all the ships and goods going through the Bosphorus. It was super important, even way back then. Can you imagine? Ships coming from all over, loaded with who knows what.
Wow, yeah. From customs post to a princess's hideaway. Yeah. Sounds like it was always meant for something more dramatic. So when did things change?
Things got really interesting during the Byzantine period. Around the 12th century, Emperor Alexius I, he built a wooden tower on the islet, and then, get this, he linked it to Constantinople with a giant chain.
Wait, a chain across the Bosphorus? Seriously?
Oh, yeah. It was this incredible defense system to keep out anyone trying to attack from the sea. Imagine that. Huge iron links spanning the whole strait, stopping any enemy ships.
That's a serious statement. That must have something to see. What about when the Ottomans took over, though? Did they just get rid of the tower?
Nope. Sultan Mehmed II, he was the one who captured the city in 1453, and even he saw how important it was strategically. He incorporated it right into the city's defenses.
It's amazing, going from Athenian to Byzantine to Ottomans, surviving all these different empires. What did the Ottomans even use it for? Just standing guard?
No, they got creative. Besides being a watchtower, it was also a lighthouse, guiding ships through those tricky currents in the Bosphorus. And at one point during a cholera outbreak, it was even used as a quarantine zone.
Wow. A lighthouse quarantine defense post. This little tower has done it all. So what about more recently? Has it always been this famous landmark we know today?
Well, it's had its rough patches, let me tell you. The tower we see now, it's mostly from the Ottoman period, but there's been a lot of rebuilding and renovating over the years.
That makes sense with everything it's been through.
A big earthquake in 1509 caused a lot of damage, and then in 1721, it was destroyed by fire. But every time, they rebuilt it, showing how important it was to the city.
Talk about resilience. So what's it like today? I heard it's like our restaurant now.
You heard right. Back in 2000, they did a major restoration and turned it into a really unique restaurant and event space. You can actually go there, have a meal, and look out at the Bosphorus.
Dinner with a view. That's incredible. I bet getting there is quite an adventure, too.
It is. You have to take a boat. They have ferries that go from Üsküdar. There's a spot called Salakak on the Asian side and from Ortaköy on the European side. And the boat ride itself is beautiful. You get these amazing views of the city and the Bosphorus.
And for anyone planning a trip, and you know you want to see the Maiden's Tower, you've got to check out the Istanbul Tourist Pass, right? It's a great way to save time and money, especially with all the entrance fees and transport in the city. Okay, enough logistics. Let's get back to the tower itself. When I picture it, I kind of imagine something simple, like, a stone tower, a few windows. Am I close?
You're not totally wrong. It does have that classic Ottoman look, but there's more to it. Parts of it, especially the base, probably go all the way back to Sultan Mehmed VI's time.
Ah, so it's like a mix of architectural styles, which makes sense for Istanbul with its long history.
Absolutely. And if you ever visit, you have to look for the marble inscription. It's really noticeable, and it commemorates the restoration in 1832 by Sultan Mahmud II. It shows you how much care and attention they've given the tower over the centuries.
Like history carved right into the stone.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible to think how many people have worked on this tower over the years. Are there any, first-hand accounts of what it looked like way back when?
Actually, there is. There's this famous Ottoman traveler, Evliya Çelebi. He traveled all over the place back in the 17th century and wrote all about it in his travelogue. He even described the Maiden's Tower, its height, shape, how many steps it had, you name it.
Wow, so we can see it through the eyes of someone from the 17th century. That's amazing. What did he say?
He described it as this, quote, high tower, four-cornered, skillfully built. And he said it was exactly, let me get this right, 80 arshins high, which is about 25 meters. He even mentioned that it had doors on two sides.
Wow, that's incredible detail. It's like stepping back in time. All right, we've talked history, architecture, but I know what everyone's really waiting for, the legends. Let's get into the myths and stories surrounding this place.
Now, that's where things get really interesting. We talked about, the princess and that prophecy, but are there any other stories about this place? Like any tales of, forbidden love, daring escapes, that kind of thing?
Well, there's the story of Hero and Leander, right? The classic Greek myth.
Exactly. But there's a little twist with this one.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So the thing is, the story of Hero and Leander, it actually takes place in the Senecal Strait. Also called the Dardanelles, not the Bosphorus. It's about Hero, this priestess of Aphrodite, and Leander, who was totally in love with her. Every single night, Leander would swim across the strait, guided by a light from Hero's tower.
Wow, talk about commitment. Swimming across the strait every night. That's intense.
It was a legendary love story for sure, but sadly, one night there was a huge storm, the light went out, and Leander, he got lost in the darkness and drowned. Hero was heartbroken, and she threw herself into the sea to be with him.
Oh, that's so sad. But wait, how did this love story, end up connected to the Maiden's Tower? It's not even in the same strait.
It's a great example of how myths and stories can travel, how they attach themselves to these iconic places. The Maiden's Tower, it's so beautiful, so isolated, so mysterious. It just fit perfectly with this tale of love, loss, and the power of the sea.
It's like the tower itself became part of the story. Like it represents the longing and the tragedy of Hero and Leander.
Exactly. Over time, the legend became so tied to the Maiden's Tower that people actually started to believe it happened there. It really shows you how powerful storytelling can be and how certain places just capture our imagination.
It's like the tower became this blank canvas and people projected their own stories and feelings onto it.
You got it. It becomes more than just a building. It becomes a symbol, a myth, a way for us to connect with these universal human experiences.
Okay, so speaking of fascinating details, do you have any other, fun facts, little tidbits about the Maiden's Tower? I'm always up for a good did you know moment.
Oh, I've always got a few. Did you know that we don't actually know who the architect of the original tower was? We have records of it existing, but the person who designed it, their name is lost to history.
A mystery architect. That just makes it even more intriguing, doesn't it? Like, who was this person who created such a famous structure? Okay, what else have you got?
Here's one that's kind of fun. There's a miniature model of the Maiden's Tower in Miniaturk Park. It's this amazing park in Istanbul with all these miniature versions of famous Turkish landmarks.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm definitely adding Miniaturk Park to my list of places to visit when I'm in Istanbul. A tiny Maiden's Tower, I have to see that. What else?
All right, this one's for the history buffs. The 10 Turkish lira banknote, back when they used it, from 1966 to 1981, it actually had a picture of the Maiden's Tower on it. Imagine that, carrying a little piece of this iconic landmark in your pocket.
That's awesome. From ancient coins to banknotes, the Maiden's Tower has been everywhere. Okay, so for those of us who are lucky enough to visit Istanbul someday, what's the best way to experience the Maiden's Tower?
Well, it's actually pretty easy to get to. Like I mentioned before, it's a restaurant and event space now, so you can take a boat there. They have regular ferries going from Üsküdar on the Asian side or from Ortaköy on the European side.
So you can basically choose which side of the city you want to depart from. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And honestly, the boat ride is part of the fun. Imagine you're cruising along the Bosphorus, the wind in your hair, you see the city skyline, and then boom, there it is, the Maiden's Tower rising out of the water.
Sounds magical.
It truly is. As you get closer, you can almost feel the history. You know, you think about all the emperors and conquerors, the myths, the legends.
Like you're stepping back in time.
Right. And then you're on the islet exploring the tower, seeing all the details, the incredible views of the Bosphorus, the city.
And experience that really involves all the senses.
Absolutely. But beyond just how it looks, the history, the legends, I think what really draws people to the Maiden's Tower is that it's always been there. For centuries, it's stood watch, you know, seeing empires rise and fall, all the drama of human history. It's this constant in a world that's always changing.
I love that. It's like a symbol of resilience,
Yeah.
of how human creativity can endure even against time and the elements.
Yeah. And its story is still being written. Every visitor who goes there, every photo taken of it, it all adds to the story of Istanbul, which is always evolving.
It makes you wonder what the tower has seen over the centuries, right? Like, what would it say about human history if it could talk?
Now that's a thought. If only walls could talk.
I know. But even without words, the Maiden's Tower tells us so much. It whispers these stories of the past to anyone who will listen.
And those stories, they're still being written today.
You know, it really gets you thinking, doesn't it? About how time passes and how some structures, like the Maiden's Tower, they become these lasting symbols that connect us to history. Why do you think that is? What is it about places like this that just, I don't know, grab our imaginations for centuries?
That's a good question, a really good question. It's probably a mix of things, you know. The Maiden's Tower, I mean, it is visually stunning, no argument there. But it's also all those layers of history, the myths, the stories that are basically built into it that give it that extra depth, that meaning that goes way beyond just how it looks.
It's like the tower is a living storybook, right? Every stone, every little crack, it's holding a secret, just waiting for someone to discover it. And what's even cooler is that the story's still being written, even today.
Exactly. Every person who goes there steps onto that little islet. They become a part of its history. They bring their own experiences, their own views, and it all adds to the story.
It reminds you that history isn't just something you read about in a textbook. It's something we're all part of, all the time. We're making it.
That's it. And that's what makes exploring these places so amazing. You never know what you'll find, what you'll learn, what connections you'll make.
I couldn't agree more. I'm telling you, I am adding the Maiden's Tower to my travel bucket list. And to all our listeners out there, if you ever find yourselves in Istanbul, make sure you go see it. Whether you're, a history buffs, love a good legend, or just want a truly memorable experience, the Maiden's Tower is there waiting to share its secrets with you.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to discover something new about it, some little detail, some connection that no one's ever made before.
That's a great point. And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. What other amazing places are out there, just waiting to be discovered? What stories will you find when you go exploring? Keep searching, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.